are listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I actually meant to record this for you a couple days ago, but I had a little headache that lasted for like 2.5 days. I was doing a chocolate detox. I do it every once in a while just to make sure that I'm choosing chocolate out of pure joy and not habit. And the fact that I had a detox headache going on tells me I had more habit going on with that chocolate than I realized. So it was good I got that cleared out. But it reminded me of something I've been meaning to talk with you about, because every once in a while I hear from a concerned creator who is having an experience of manifesting what they don't want rather than what they do want. And it's not unusual for someone to worry that they're doing it wrong, or they question whether conscious creation is bogus. This might have happened to you before, when things get worse before they get better. Like, say when a person wants to manifest more money in their world, but instead of seeing money flow in, they all of a sudden experience some sort of surprise financial loss. Or like when someone wants to create a loving, committed relationship with a new love interest they're excited about, and then they get ghosted. Or, I don't know, when someone wants to manifest improved physical health, and instead they start getting more symptoms. It's not unusual for a person to wonder what's going on here. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this episode today. And I'm not saying that I know for sure what's going on in your situation, because it could be a couple of different things. It could be that you're not actually lined up the way you think you are. That actually happens. We fool ourselves sometimes. Like, we think we're dialed on manifesting more money, but what we're really focused on is why we need more money, or what's going to happen if we don't get more money. So that could be happening. Sometimes people experience what my business partner calls vibrational whiplash. And that's where you make a significant vibrational jump that's unsustainable. It kind of reminds me of how Abraham says, you don't actually want to make quantum leaps because they're physically uncomfortable. Like, gradual progress could be much more sensible, and that it's easier to work with and maintain. But that's not what we're talking about here, because with vibrational whiplash, you actually do feel better before you feel worse. What I'm talking about here is what happens when you are properly dialed in on what you want, and you get that energy moving in a powerful way, and then things go sideways. So let me start off by saying that this doesn't happen all the time. All right, so you don't have to expect that this pattern is going to unfold every time you decide to consciously create whatever you want. But sometimes when we get a new vibration flowing, that new energy serves as a catalyst to flush out anything that doesn't match that new energy that we've just activated. Like, if I turn on satisfaction and happiness, things that are not compatible with those vibrations of satisfaction and happiness, they're got to head for the exits. And sometimes that exit is interpreted as turmoil or going wrong. We think things like, it's not working. This is the opposite of what I wanted. Ooh, you know what this reminds me of? That guest post Cindy Chavez wrote for us a couple years ago at the blog, when she was writing about how she was in an unhappy marriage, so she wanted to manifest a happy marriage. But then she started getting divorced. And she's like, that's not what I wanted. And it might have looked like her manifesting process wasn't working, but it totally was, because she realized in hindsight that she needed a different partner to do happy marriage. So the guy that she was married to, he had to make his exit. He wasn't in alignment with having a happy marriage. But at the time, she didn't see it that way. She just thought that, once she started this process, her husband would become more considerate and communicative. And he did the opposite. Like, he was the opposite. So in hindsight, when she could see it from a higher perspective, it made perfect sense. And we don't always have that higher perspective. When we're in the red hot middle of it, it's easy to conclude that this isn't working or things are going wrong. But that isn't necessarily the case. This could very well just be a good sign that you've properly activated what you want and that the energy is moving in a powerful way. Like when you detox. Have you ever done that before? you know you're doing something to clarify your physical body and clean out unhelpful stuff when you do a detox. But sometimes in that process, you end up with some detox symptoms like mild headaches or irritability or not having much energy. And that's okay, right? We know that with detoxes, it's a good sign. You're moving things. And yes, I know you don't have to suffer when you do a detox. It's the same with our manifesting. You don't have to. In fact, I remember the first time I did a detox, I did a hardcore. I didn't know any other way. I just was following instructions, and they were hardcore instructions. And it was the first time I'd ever done it. I was an adult, so I maybe shouldn't have done it so hardcore. Anyway, it wasn't until afterwards that someone told me, you can moderate those. You don't have to do it. You can do it softer. You can do it slower. You can do it in a more comfortable way. Anyway, what I'm saying is that we can do the same thing with our manifesting. So it's worth recognizing that how we respond to what's unfolding is within our power. And this is just like when you're manifesting what you want and something unwanted happens. This is no time to go back to the caffeine or the nicotine, or in my case, the chocolate. That's like what my ex did. It took him a while to realize this. We would travel, and by midday, he'd have like this crazy headache, and he wouldn't understand where it was coming from. He didn't often get headaches, just when he traveled. And I told him, it's because you aren't drinking your regular Mountain Dew that he had every morning. It was caffeine withdrawal. He had no idea that's what he was experiencing. His answer when I told him that was what was happening was like, we got to go get a Mountain Dew right now. My answer would be, oh yeah, I don't want to have any sort of addiction or craving going on. Yeah, let me clear that out. He would just go drink a Mountain Dew to get rid of his headache. But it's like our body does so many interesting things. Like, when you have a fever, the fever isn't the problem, even though people often treat the fever as the thing they want to get rid of. The fever's the solution. That's what your body's doing to burn up the foreign bug inside that it doesn't like. Or when we cough, coughing isn't the problem. It's the body expelling the foreign agents that it doesn't want in your lungs. I don't know if these analogies are actually translating well, but it can be the same thing when you engage a strong vibration management practice. When you take strong steps to shift your focus and to start feeling now how you'd feel when you have what you want, it's not unusual that the elements in your life that aren't compatible with that new vibration are going to get flushed out. They're going to make an exit. And sometimes it isn't pretty or it isn't pleasant, and you're going to say it's not what I wanted, but it's working. This is what it looks like when you're moving the energy. It kind of reminds me how Michael Port in his book Yourself Solid, I think that's where he talks about the red velvet rope policy and how you got to fire the clients that you don't like. You've got to get rid of them in order to let the good ones in. He's talking about, and this is a very LOA friendly principle. He says, as long as you keep working with people that you don't like, or as long as you keep doing work you don't enjoy, you are not a vibrational match to the people and the work that you do enjoy. So his advice is that you got to get ahead of this process by unloading what's incompatible to what you want. You do that first, and then you can attract the good stuff in. Either way, the unlike energy has got to go, because unlike energy, it can't hang out together. So if you said something like, I'm manifesting money that I make in enjoyable, lucrative ways, and then you lose your day job the next day, that's not necessarily a sign that your process isn't working. It might just be universe saying, oh, we hear you. Okay, we got you covered, and we're going to make some room. We're going to get that job out of here. We're going to get something really cool coming in so you can make money in enjoyable, lucrative ways. Or if you were intending financial prosperity and you had your eye on a dream job or a cool job offer that you really wanted and it doesn't come through, it's likely that there's just a better match for what you're up to. It's also possible that you aren't vibrationally up to speed with that dream job, but that's a different episode, because we're talking here about what happens when we are properly lined up with what we want and things go wrong. If you conclude that it's not working, think about that vibrational instruction. You just told universe it's not working. So that's reason enough to just decide that everything's working out perfectly, even when it looks like it isn't. So that might be worth chilling out with any conclusions or judgments we might be inclined to make that this isn't working. And instead, just first of all, check in to make sure you really, truly are feeling or thinking better in some way, so you are lined up with what you want. And then just let the chips fall where they may. It's not your job to orchestrate the how. Your job is to stay dialed on the what of what you want. And when things start moving, I just assume that it's a good sign. Whatever's happening, of course it's a good sign. I wrote a blog post on that. I said, why not decide everything's a good sign? Especially when we know the power of our thought, I think we'd be crazy to conclude anything other than that things are working out really well for us. If I believe it's a good sign, it has to be, because my belief and my thoughts, my focus rule. So if you find yourself in a position where you're starting to manifest something that you want and it looks like things are falling apart, just remember how this system works. I'm not asking you to rely on faith, because you don't need faith when you understand how the system works. It's more likely that you're just moving big energy and that you are powerfully engaging your skills to create what you want. When you move big energy, you get big results. So in that sense, it's worth celebrating instead of worrying when things seem like they're getting worse before they get better. And I say seem like, because we don't always know from our limited perspective. Just like Cindy didn't know, oh my gosh, she's married to an amazing guy after she got divorced from that other guy. Okay, so I can't tell you for 100% sure that things will get better for you very soon, because like I said, it's possible that you're not actually focused in the way that you think you are. But if you are dialed on what you want and you really are upgrading your vibration based on how you're focused, I can tell you without a doubt that good things are coming. Sooner or later, reality will catch up with your new and improved vibration. And you don't have to just have blind trust or faith in that when you know that we live in an energetic system and you know how that system works and you know what your role in it is. So decide that it's working out for you. I mean, check yourself and make sure you really are lined up in the way that you think you are. And then celebrate everything that's moving. Trust that it's working for you, even when it's a 2.5-day headache. It's all good. All right, thanks for tuning in. I hope you got something good from this. Bye, everyone.